Welcome back to Universe. I'm Andrew, and today I'm playing Apothecaria solo potion making RPG. This is session 2, so check the link in the description for session 1. I focused on playing the game as is for the most part, but with that out of the way, I want to reintegrate some of the setting and story that I made when I played Procedures to Discover the Path Along the Way, or Ahead, which is the game I did another video for previously. And when I did, I made this setting, and I played with the intention of having our character, our new brewing apothecary witch, find the old witch's hut, where she would then proceed to do her work of potion making in Apothecaria. I set that aside so that I could just play this, but now I want to reintegrate some of this story and setting and figure out where are some of these other locations relative to her. So in case you didn't watch this, or just in case you want a quick recap, our witch is from Thahad village, and I also created the backstory that the old missing witch is also from there, and it's kind of like a thing that this is where witches come from. Basically, Thahad village is full of witches. That's part of their culture. And so when the previous one went missing, our character was chosen to travel down and take her place, and this is the route that we traveled in order to find that destination. There's a big place called Mahad Wood up here. Next to Thahad village is the Wathad village, which does not have a culture of witches, and they kind of resent the association. They split off from each other a long time ago, or 100 or so years ago. They fish here in this body of water, which I had been calling a lake. There's a small way station here that our character crossed a swamp, and then she found a city called Nenawaste, where they live in harmony with nature, but they're not really big on witches or witchy stuff because they reject anything that has to do with decay or kind of the negative sides of nature. They embrace beauty. They have sculptures carved from wood or maybe just grown from wood, and they kind of consider themselves the saviors of the region because of the big event that happened before, where they banished an old god or some kind of deity or powerful entity spirit called Atir that was the embodiment of like decay and whatnot. Our character actually encountered the spirit or some form of manifestation of Atir over here in the swamp, which is east of this swamp here, where there's some restless undead here, which is just east of Wartu village, where a temple to that god had been previously standing, and the people of Nenawaste destroyed it as they drove out the spirit. And now they kind of keep Nenawaste kind of keeps Warhu under their thumb, because again, they kind of see themselves as the savior. These are the people they saved. So while Nenawaste was trying to drive out Atir and eventually succeeded, the people of the villages up here, this was probably previously a city, they were starting to dabble in witchcraft to figure out how to work in harmony with that spirit, but they didn't do so in time, and Nenawaste succeeded. People of Wathad resented that failure and split off into the two separate villages. And meanwhile, there's a big foresty area now where the witch's hut is. But none of that matches up really with what is in Apothecaria, so I set that aside. I've redrawn the map, at least a bit of it, so that it fits with the witch hut in the middle of the page now. So we've got our hometown still kind of up there. It's still up there, but it's just off the map. And I wanted the witch to be central because there's a few places that we need to make sure show up. One of them is Meltwater Lock, and I actually had to look up what is a lock, but I guess it's like an arm of a sea that is kind of surrounded by land mostly. It's almost a river, but I guess it's enough of a body of water. Maybe it's not flowing directly, I don't know. But I figured we already have a body of water, and I could just extend this like deep down here. Let's do something like this and just make it carve real far into here. I know up here is the woods, but actually it would be just off the map. So all of this is free game. We know that the Mahad Wood is really big up here. We also know that this is the tip of the water. This is the edge of the body of water here. So it can't go any farther than that. It needs to connect back to the sea. So maybe that's off in this direction, which means it's pretty much cutting off the entire edge of the map here. So we may as well just draw it in. Let's just go wild here. Just say that whole edge there is the lock. This is Meltwater Lock. So I want to make sure that these main foraging locations are close proximity to our hut. There's also the Blastfire Bog, which says it is unreachable until you get a coracle. And we have a swamp. We know there's undead there. And we know there's a spirit of decay there, but that doesn't necessarily have to extend to the whole place. This says it lurks past the territory of the giant spiders. Gets its name from the swamp gas bog dragons or goblins who live there. So we knew there was swamp here. We didn't encounter any spiders, but I'm going to add a spider here and here. Make this a swamp as well. Some bubbling, and put more spiders here, more swamp, and maybe even a little bit more like this. So now we've got a nice big swampy region, and maybe this is the last bit of the swamp. This is the blast fire part. This is where the nice herbs are actually growing. So again, I'll put this little drawing of this bubbling swamp, but I'm gonna write blast fire. Dreamwater Depths is a place we don't have access to, but it's kind of indicated, yeah, it's in the depths of the loch, so we can't access it yet. But it would be at the bottom of the loch. There's also the mountain, which we can go to. So that means there's going to be mountains pretty close nearby. We need to add Moonbreaker Mountain. There's also the Cloud Isles, unreachable until you're able to fly, which means it's going to be up in the sky. It's not going to be on our map. Hero's Hollow is a dungeon. We've been there. We'll just say the entrance to the dungeon is somewhere in the woods. That's fine. Behind the cliff-sized skull of an ancient beast. Twisting tunnels, tombs, and caverns known as the Hero's Hollow. There's also the Strange, which is unreachable until the portal has been opened in Hero's Hollow. And incidentally, that has already happened. So we have access to the Strange, but again, that's not going to be on the map. We just need to do the mountain, Glimmerwood Grove, famously mystical forest, home to all manner of fey creatures, including fairies, giants, unicorns, and worst of all, will-o-wisps. So this can also just be somewhere in the forest. In fact, I'm going to say that that is this space right here, because this is where we encountered the summer fae on our travels in that first Procedures to Discover the Path of Head session. So this is the most magical bit of forest here. We're going to call that Glimmerwood Grove. Fortunately, I already drew a bunch of trees, so you can't really read it. The last thing other than the mountain is the village. So we are meant to have proximity to a village, and it is called High Rannoch. Now, we've got a village nearby enough, Warhu, and we could even say that we're getting customers from Ninawaste, and I'm happy to do that in the lore, but I also kind of just want to follow the rules here and add a village called High Rannoch. And we've got room to the south, but I also don't want to just like plop it down and just say that it's there, because it feels tacked into this setting that I've created using this system. So even though this is Apothecaria session 2, I'm going to dip back into Procedures to Discover the Path Ahead and determine a few things about this village that I'm just kind of determining is there. So if I wanted to do it right, I would be rolling on this table, on the overland table. You know what I could do is I could cheat the system a little bit and use the city approach rules. So I could just say that I've already found a city, and now I'm going to roll on city approach. But I'm going to try to burn through this quickly. So basically I'm going to roll a d6, and I'm going to start with the 0 if you remember the system. If not, no worries. I did get a frog familiar at the end of the last episode, and I've got some frog dice, so I decided this is the perfect occasion for my frog dice. So I don't know if you can see this little guy here, but there are frogs in all of these dice. They don't match the colors, but this little guy does. And I wasn't even looking for this. I just found it in some of my stuff when I happened to be looking for other things. So I pulled out this little frog. We'll just have him off to the side. I don't think I named my familiar, but all right, let's roll a frog die d6. A 3 is a way station along the way. I'd previously used this little weird icon as a way station. Let's say I'm going this way. I do need to add a mountain in at some point. But let's add a little way station. I'm not going to do the full journey. Normally I'd roll to get some more details about it, but I don't want to do that. So let's travel again. Again, I'm going to decide where to draw it after I see what it is. Again, not really following the system. But because of this modifier here, it says way station +1. I'm now rolling a d6 +1 on this chart. And let's see what we get. A 4 + 1 is 5. So there is military of some kind. And there is a little military chart. So I'm going to roll on that. Oh, a 2 means there's walls. Just walls. So I wonder if this is like old walls that kind of are from the war 176 years ago or whatever I determined it was. So this is walls built by the military. They've kind of crumbled over time. They're not maintained. I don't think anybody lives here, but they're just remnants of where the walls were during the battle against the evil spirit. So we know that it was like killing crops and causing plague of some kind. There was some kind of war, and the people of Ninawasti banished it from this plane of existence or something, I suppose. But maybe that war was spilling out over in this direction toward Hyrenic. So these are the walls that are remnants of that. Military said +2, so we have a total of +3 now as we roll. 4 again, +3 is 7, which is productive wilds. Productive wilds. Oh, so there's things like mining. 6 is fishing. So maybe that's just over here. Maybe there's a small fishing village. An extension of Hyrenic is over here. Obviously, close enough. Maybe that extends. There's like docks and stuff out this way. Yeah, maybe it's actually just a full-on little fishing village, come to think of it. Because this is big enough and far enough away that it would kind of be its own thing. I'm going to name this town with my syllables chart. Roll D100 and a D6. 33 is Gao. 4 means we roll again. 24 is E. Gowie. 4 plus 1 previous is 5, so we roll again. And 42 is I. Gowia. 3 plus the previous 2 is 5. We still roll again. 3 plus the previous 3 is 6. So we stop. The roll is 3, which is A. Gowia. I'm going to put that first and make it a Gowia. Pretty easy to say. So a Gowia, a lot of vowels, is a little fishing village. The productive wilds was +1. So now we're a total of +4 here. +3 is 7, which is productive wilds again. I'm just going to have that extend. I'm just going to say that all 3 of these are kind of like, maybe it's like a big sprawled out village. Are there people from all over? Or you know what? Maybe the water, maybe the lock is not such a straight line here. Maybe the water is creeping in and there's different parts, little fingers of the lock coming in all over this area. So it's a whole big wetland. There's fishing. There's other sea life that people are catching there. So this whole area is wet and fishy. People live across the whole little expanse there. I think we're at +5. We get a 2, which is still a 7, but yeah, that's 3 total hexes of that anyway. +6 is 11, and that's water. So anyway, I'm going to cheat, and we're just going to say that Hyrenic is here, because that's where I want it to be. I don't want it to be too far. So we did enough. Thank you, little guy. You're done. You're retired. It's more fun if you're actually going on the journey. But here I'm just trying to determine the location and get a little bit of context for Hyrenic. I'm going to imagine this is a bit bigger walled city. And even though I didn't want to just drop it in there, I feel a little bit better about it now that I know that they've got a connection to the old war. They've got military walls out along this way. I'm actually just going to put another. I'm going to say the walls extend all the way out over here. And actually here too. This way station is probably an abandoned, another one of the walls that didn't fall apart completely yet. And it's being slightly maintained by people as a way station. People who do want to travel into the woods for some reason. Actually, I'm not sure why people would travel north other than specifically to see us or the previous witch. Because I imagine that these people don't love the association up here. They don't probably want to travel through these woods or these swamps. There's not a lot of people going north. Maybe if you stay, actually, okay, let's say this. Let's say if you stay along the river here, there is a path through the woods that people take to Agawia, or however I said that, to Nanawaste, and then of course Agawia to Hyrenic. So there's a little bit of trade between these major cities. This is a little way station before you get into the woods. And of course people can also stop there on their way to see us. The last thing I need to add is the mountain. So let's just put it right here. This is our mountain, the Moonbreaker Mountain. So I just kind of drew it old-fashioned mappy style, but I imagine the base of the mountain is kind of this whole area, and it's got it leading up to the peak in the middle there. So now we've got our actual Apothecaria locations. In the context, we still don't have this all mapped out, but it's not immediately necessary. Our home village is up here, and I know there's forest here, but this could be, this space is also kind of open and available. And then of course everything down here to the south and east as well. And it feels silly because we're not necessarily even gonna need this to play Apothecaria, but I just kind of wanted it. So thanks for sticking with me. I also need to know more about my character. So Apothecaria doesn't ask you to say anything about your character up front. or at any point that I've read so far, we have no idea who we are. So I guess it's just assumed or implied that you're supposed to be journaling, which I'm not doing. But to journal, you've got to have a perspective, which means you have to have a character. So maybe it's just assumed that you just know to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and make my character fleshed out a little bit more. I hadn't totally decided on a gender, but I noticed that in the previous episode, I slipped out a she pronoun for her. So we're going with that. Also, the day that video went live, I happened to see on DeviantArt, I go there every day just to see the homepage, what the pictures they recommended for me to look at. And one of them popped up, a beautiful green wizard, green mage illustration called Green Witch version 1.2 by Sylvia Sreik. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that's my character. So I contacted her and got her permission to use this character in the video. So that's my character, that's her. We also know where she's from. So big thanks to Sylvia. Link in the description where you can find her art. You can buy prints, not of this one yet, maybe one day, but other great art. So now I have my character's look. I know where she's from. I know she's a witch. I know what she's doing. I need a name for her, and I'm a little bit afraid to use this syllables chart because it makes kind of weird, silly names. But let's give it a shot. Reserve the right to redo as always. 77 is sin. 2 means we roll again. 96 is were. 5 plus 1 is 6. That means we stop. So either senwer or worsen. Oh, worsen is not a good name. All right, I just kind of tumbled it around in my head a little bit. I came up with Selwyn. So instead of senwer, Selwyn. A lot of the same letters. Not all the same letters. But Selwyn sounds nice. Also got that Selene prefix, the cell in there for like a moon vibe. Ooh, but is it going to be Selwyn EN or YN? Probably YN. How does that look? Or do we want the I? I'm going to keep that for now. It still doesn't give me everything. Fortunately, we've got Table Fables. And I'm going to use this background generator. Or maybe the character past generator. Yeah, the character backgrounds is going to be a little bit too much craziness. Like we could end up being an ex-soldier or a deserter. We know our background is that we're kind of a young witch from a village of witches where we've learned herbology. Maybe we're particularly good at it for them to send us to this post, but I don't think we're definitely not the best one from the village. Those are probably older, more practiced witches who are staying home. But we've got the youthful vigor and maybe a lust for adventure and trying something new that the older, wiser people can sense in us. They're like, okay, you're pretty good at this, and we can tell you don't want to stay here your whole life, so why don't you go take up this post? So I at least know that much. But this character past generator, I think, is going to be helpful. I don't want to just make this stuff up. I'm also not going to be doing like a ton of like in-depth role playing. I'm going to be making potions for people. But let's see. So first of all, parents, D4. The character's father is dead, but mother is alive. Childhood, D6. 4. The character's childhood was mostly unsupervised. Okay. A lot of wandering around in the woods. Maybe the mother wasn't necessarily the one teaching her the herbology. Maybe our character was going to learn from other people around town, watching what they did. Maybe they didn't even want to teach us necessarily, and we were practicing on our own. Although I don't want to get too far ahead because we are still learning a lot from this journal here. We're still learning about a lot of the herbs in the area. So whatever we have learned is probably not quite as potent as what we're able to do now with some of these special herb locations nearby. Let's keep moving. Place of birth I'm going to roll on, although I might just reject this. 6 says a fort or hold. Oh, well, I wonder if we're not actually from that village. Or maybe the mother had moved away, the father died, so the mother came back home to the village, but we were born in a fort somewhere, maybe in High Rannoch. Sure. Not that High Rannoch is a fort necessarily, but because of these old walls and things like that, maybe there's still some more military stuff here in High Rannoch. So mom moved away, got with dad, had a baby, dad passed away, mom moved back home. We grew up unsupervised, and our lineage does date back to the Hod, but we're almost a generation removed in that we weren't born there, and maybe we didn't grow up there for the first few years. Next is siblings. That could put a spin on the story I just came up with. A 19 is 1d10 siblings. I'm going to roll 10. 10 siblings. We've also got a sexuality and romantic status. I'm not going to bother rolling those. I'm not going to be doing any romance type activities. If there was a possibility for like an ex, or maybe like we had to break up with our boyfriend in order to come over here or something like that, that could be interesting backstory, but that wasn't really a possibility on the chart. It's like married or divorced and things like that. So I think our character, let's say she's like 20, maybe she's lived the last 10 years, maybe slightly longer, in Fahad, and 10 siblings. I'm just gonna say we're the youngest, which is why we're kind of unsupervised, and a lot of the older ones are just like totally grown up and adults, and maybe they had moved on before the father even passed away and mom moved back home. Maybe she was getting older and had kind of like 2 or 3 kids left still to take care of. So a lot of our siblings live in Hyranic or have maybe moved on from there. Maybe one of them is an artist in Ninawaste now. And yeah, I think that's enough to work with. So we got Selwyn, her 10 siblings. Her mom is a bit of an older mother. Dad passed away over a decade ago. Oh, I do want to name our frog familiar too. Our frog secretes a liquid that makes you fall asleep, but it's also very sweet tasting. So it's a nice little way to relax after a long day and make sure you get the good night's sleep. I don't know that Selwyn looked for any biological indicators of sex on the frog, but I'm going to use masculine pronouns for him. Reroll that. We got a 31 phi. 39 is his. And then a 5 plus 1 is 6. Phi his. Inverted would be fizz high, which sounds kind of like fizzy, which wouldn't have been the direction I chose, but it's kind of a cute name. So I guess our frog's name is Fizzy. Maybe that secretion is carbonated. Selwyn and Fizzy. And now perhaps I should play Apothecaria. I've kept my deck the same. I haven't shuffled it or even really moved it. So the discard pile is the same as what we used in the previous session. Deck hasn't been changed. Now we can actually play. Nope, just kidding. I forgot, in the last video I made a math mistake and I said that a hive, which costs 50 silver, it gives you 1 point of sweet to 4 potions per season. 4 per season is, every point of sweet is 4 extra silver, so that's 16 silver per season. Over the course of the year, 16 silver per season times 4 seasons is 64, which is 14 more than the cost of 50. I was doing my math at 12 silver per season, which is only 48 over the course of a year, which would be a loss if you only play for 1 year, which is kind of what I have in mind, so I didn't want to buy it. But my math was wrong. It's actually a net plus, and I think I'm going for a sweet theme. So I'm going to try to make extra sweet potions, and I'm going to go ahead and get this hive. A well-made hive can provide you with plenty of honey. Just be careful of their stings. It costs 50 silver, which I do have. 20, 30, 40, 45, and 50. I just have 2 left. I should make a card that is just my inventory. All right, plus 1, sweet, 4x per season. And there, I wrote out the season so I can make little tally marks and permanently remember when that is used up. All right, my reputation is 6, which means I'm still a novice, so we're going to be dealing with novice ailments. So let's see which ailment someone comes to us with by flipping a card. 2 means photothropy, which is a curse and hair problem. It has a timer of 6, so let's set our timer. And it says, during the full moon, the afflicted turns into a monstrous hamster and scurries around their home and village, nibbling on carts and walls. Consequence, so if we fail, they go on another rampage and I lose a reputation. So the keyword tags here are curse and hair. I need to find reagents that can deal with those. Where should I go foraging? Fortunately, the dark water that Fizzy can make does not help. It can cure cough, hot, or magic, but not curse or hair. Alright, so we're headed back into the dungeon. Going back into Hero's Hollow. This time we have access to the Strange Thou, because Maya Darkeye opened the portal for us. She wanted to see what we would do. I need skeleton dust. While regular skeletons do work, those reanimated through necromantic rituals are better, as the residual magic keeps their bones stronger for longer, which is what you want. Bone can be crushed for teeth, bones, and hair. Hair is what I need. That has a forage value of 5. I also need old blood. Vampire bats, ticks, spear tips, doesn't really matter where it comes from. All that matters is that the blood can't be fresh. This is a forage value of 5 in the dungeon, but in the strange, it is 2. So I think I'm going to be going into the dungeon first to get the skeleton dust, and then moving into the strange. And blood can be boiled for curse and rash. Curse is what we need. It does add 1 poison, though, and 1 poison will reduce our payout from 20 silver down to 16. However, if I have time, I am on a timer of 6 here, but also in the strange can be found weird water, which costs or has a forge value of 10 in the strange only, which is quite high. Glowing magical water native to the strange that, if prepared properly, can fulfill any requirements. Water can be added raw for a tag of your choice. So I can choose sleep, and Fizzy has the ability to create carbonated dark water, which adds 3 sweet and causes sleep. So if I can find some weird water, I can counteract the sleep ailment and get away with adding the dark water. Pretty sure. Now, dark water can cure cough, hot, and magic. None of those are relevant. I'm just adding it for the sweet if I can find weird water. If not, if I run out of time, I'm going to have to take a hit on the payout and feed my customer a little bit of poison. That said, I totally forgot to generate my customer. Last time my customers were This, the mercenary with kludgy mouth, and Thalhavia, the fancily dressed noble with allergies. So let's pull out Table Fables 2 and the NPC generator and see who is turning into a hamster on the full moon. I think I'm going to slightly tweak the gender from male or female to a D10. 1 to 4 will be male, 5 to 8 female, 9 or 10 non-binary. 7 will be a female, it's turning into a hamster. Her age, 6 is, it's a D4, so that'll be a 3. So she's old. There's 8 different races. I've been kind of assuming that everyone's human, but now we've already met at least one fire-breathing salamander person. We also know there are undead, there are fairies in the woods. I'm just trying to decide how weird, how fantastical is this setting. I don't think I'm ready to deep dive into having all these races be commonplace. I'm gonna roll on social standing. Hope she doesn't end up too much like our previous customer. 6 is that she's another noble. So was Thalhavia. 14 means she's a criminal. A lot of nobles are. Alright, alignment. I don't think I've rolled on this one yet. A 6 says she's true neutral. Not getting a great sense of this person. Her clothing is good quality and common. Well, maybe she's a criminal because of the act she committed as a hamster. She was a noble, but now she's an old lady on the run. Maybe this has been going on for a while and she's lost everything. I mean, it's kind of like not her fault, right? What if it is her fault? What if she chose to be a hamster lycanthrope, and only now, after her family kicked her out, has she finally sought out some kind of cure? Let's see what her goal is. I don't know. I kind of like what I'm coming up with here. She desires knowledge. All right, last one is a notable feature, a bad sunburn. So in her life as a noble, all she wanted was to learn more about the animal world, maybe specifically hamsters. She found some kind of wizard or witch or magic user who could turn her into one. She didn't realize that it would happen monthly, and now she's been causing chaos for a few years for the people around her, so much that they've kicked her out of her own house, which at first she was okay with because she got to delve deeper into her quest for knowledge about hamsters without having to deal with societal expectations like hanging out with family or doing noble things. She's a criminal now. She's been on the run. She's caused problems in the town, but on her last bout she woke up too far north or too far south maybe, and regardless, she woke up after the full moon in her human form, naked, and she just ended up getting this horrible sunburn. She managed to walk back to some kind of town. People were nice enough to give her some commoner clothes, which is how she's dressed now and how she's come to us to finally say, you know what, maybe this curse isn't worth it. What a weird story. And her name is Wer-Ik Men. All right, maybe Men-Wer-Ik? Maybe Men-Wer-Ik? Men-Wer-Ik. What a nonsense name for a nonsense story. A hamster lycanthrope noble. Definitely not writing down that whole story. We'll have to look back at the video for the notes on her. So let's go foraging. First up is looking for skeleton dust. We get to travel once for free. And again, I think the entrance to the Hero's Hollow is going to be somewhere just in the woods nearby. Probably, actually, you know what? Let's say it's right here. This space here with some of the old walls and stuff. Underneath that is the entrance to Hero's Hollow. I'm going to write it. And of course, within Hero's Hollow is the entrance to the Strange. So we travel once for free. We don't have to spend any time for that. And as we look for skeleton dust, forage value of 5 in the dungeon, we need to flip a card 5 or more. 7 will do it. Also triggers the event, the Baron, a suit of armor possessed by a malevolent poltergeist, has cornered you. You'll have to duel your way out. Draw 3 cards for yourself, then 4 for the Baron. If the Baron's total is higher, they score a wound. Lose 2 foraging points. I don't have any. If your total is higher, they congratulate you with a reagent. Draw a card and treat it as a reagent of the same value. Okay. I don't know how to interpret that last sentence, but I'm going to have to make up my own version. So the Baron gets 4. I get 3. Got a 4, a 4, and a Queen. That doesn't sound great. That's a total of 18, treating face cards as 10s. But he's got 8 already. 10, 15, 25. So I lose 2 foraging points, but I don't have any foraging points. In fact, with the 7, I actually succeeded and I got what I was looking for, the skeleton dust, already. So I don't lose anything. Doesn't say I lose time, which is nice. Suit of armor possessed by a malevolent poltergeist. I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. It's not the weirdest thing we've seen in this dungeon. If we see him again, we might want to get to know him a little better or something like that. For now, I'll be happy just to know that there is such a thing. He challenges us to duel, he beats us, and we move on. Looking for old blood. Oh, and now, actually, in the dungeon, it's a value of 5. In the strange, it's a value of 2. And I want to go in the strange anyway for the weird water. So I'm going to spend a time to change locations and go down to 5. Actually, I think I have to lose 1 for that first reagent I found anyway. And then another time to move. If there are rules that specifically link the Hero's Hollow to the strange, I missed it. I don't know if, for example, if I'd gone to the mountain first and then decided to change locations to the strange, is that 2 time lost? 1 to go to the Hero's Hollow and a second one to go in the strange? The way the rules are written, it makes me think it's only 1 time lost still, even though thematically the strange is through, you have to go into the Hero's Hollow first. Mechanically, I don't remember reading a rule that said I would have to spend 2 time going to Hero's Hollow and then the strange. So at least for now, I'm just going to play it as 1 time only, regardless of which location you move to. But in this case, it wouldn't matter because I did start in the Hollow. And then remember, thematically, this is all happening over the course of a week. I guess theoretically, maybe Menwarique maybe she's staying with us for now. You know what? I'm just going to say, in this case, for sure, she's staying with us for now. Probably Thalhavia, the previous noble with allergies. She probably came, said what she wanted, and came back a few days later. But, all right, let's hunt some old blood. Now that I'm in the strange, I only need a 2, which should be an automatic success. I guess an ace actually is a 1. But a 10 will do it, so we now have skeleton dust and old blood, which is all we need. But I do have to trigger the event off a 10. You take the chance to flick through some old books in the ruined library and find a book on something unexpected or useful. What is it? Note down in excerpts. Last time I actually got that same event when I was in the Hollow before, and I found a well-worn book in an unfamiliar language. So I didn't write down any excerpts because I don't recognize the language. And I determined that by rolling on Table Fables 2, which is what I'm going to do again. On the books table, a d20 of books. We get a 4. Essential Oil Essentials by Sam Von Kane. You know what? And not that I hate that, but Table Fables first one actually has a D100 book table. I'm going to roll on instead. It's 19, The Unparalleled Lexicon of Medicinal Flora by Unknown. That's super relevant to what's going on. That's kind of wild. And the fact that it's by Unknown makes it interesting, and it gives me a little bit of inspiration. I'm going to say that this book, as Selwyn's reading it, she realizes, even though it's not attributed to an author, a lot of the syntax, the word choices, the type of information, it's very familiar, and she's pretty sure it's written by the same witch, the one who's gone missing and that we're replacing. And I'm wondering, does this book have all of the same information that we already have access to? Because this is the information she left us, all these herbs and whatnot. Or is there information that is in this book that is not in here? Or do we find out basically that what she's left us, this book, is the Unparalleled Lexicon of Medicinal Flora Volume 2, or 2nd edition with even more information? I don't know an easy way to answer that question with the tables I have available to me right now. If I were playing with the Mythic GM emulator, if I had some kind of oracle to ask, I might ask a yes or no question and roll on an oracle. But I think instead I'm just going to say, I'm actually going to use the first book roll I did, the Essential Oils book, and say that this book does have a bit more information, but not a ton in the realm of herbs and whatnot. It does, however, have entries on oils, which is completely left out of anything that she left for Selwyn. Timer goes down to 3. We have the reagents we need, but I want the weird water to cure sleep so that I can add dark water from Fizzy, so that I can make more than 20 silver instead of making less than 20 silver. The rules say, once you're foraging, step 3 of foraging, once your foraging points are equal to or higher than your reagent's value, you automatically find the reagent. Step 4, if the element has a time limit, decrease it by 1, and if it reaches 0, basically you fail and suffer the consequences. But I'm gonna add a tweak to that, which seems like what was intended, which is that if you found the item, you didn't fail. Because if you have only 1 time left and you decide to forage again, you will fail according to the way this is written. Guaranteed. Even if you found the herb, you will suffer the consequences. So that doesn't make sense. So I'm gonna say basically I've got 3 chances as long as I stay in the strange. Oh, I rolled on the wrong event. Oh, all that about the book. That was the wrong table. I'm not gonna redo it all. That's a shame. I should have done an event. That 10 is a success, but I should have done an event from the strange, not Hero's Hollow, which is what I did. So I'm just gonna keep it. Somehow this book ended up all the way into the strange. And yeah, so I've got 3 more chances to try to find weird water, which has a foraging value of 10. So let's go for it. 6 is not gonna do it. Let's check our event. In the strange, a 6 says you wander into a bazaar, a place that sells everything and anything. You see wizards selling crystal balls and magic tomes, demons selling dreams and shadows, strange little creatures selling stolen socks. You may buy any magic reagent here for 3 silver times its foraging value. Do you buy anything else? Is this magic? This is magic, so if I wanted to spend 30 silver, I would just get it. But considering I'm trying to get it so that I can make 12 extra silver, I don't think that makes sense. Also, I only have 2, so not an option. I don't have any money. So we've found a wild place, kind of a nexus of realities here in the strange. I don't know if I read the description of the strange. It's a land of friendly demons, errant magic, and impossible structures. After the initial confusion of entering such a place, it can actually be quite quaint. Just follow their rules and be a good guest while in their realm. Oh, and be careful what you eat. The demons here like to play pranks on unassuming mortals. All right, so I'm got some inspiration here from Table Fables 2. I think I'm gonna roll on this magic items table as something that Selwyn sees that she wants. She doesn't have the money for it, but she wants it. And depending on what it is, I might have to retcon that. But let's see. We roll up an item and say that she's really interested in this item for some reason. Just to add a little bit of story. Actually, both books have magic items. 2 has a D20 of items, but 1 has a D100 of items. I like rolling D100. Kind of wish it was a magic item generator, but that's okay. Let's see. 72. A Campelan sword, I don't know what that means, with a blade of matte black. It sings gently and grows much more powerful after beheading a living creature. All right, so an evil sword that devours souls. I'm pretty sure the reason she wants it is not because she just loves evil swords. It probably has a mystical calling to people to touch it, and so she's coveting it, she's looking at it, and as she starts to get close, the seller, who maybe is a demon or something, is like, no, stop, little girl, you gotta get away from this thing. You're not used to things in the strange, are you? You can't just go around touching things. And basically he saves her from having her soul devoured by an evil sword. Or maybe there's a moment where he sees her looking at it and wanting it, and he knows, because he knows what's going on, because it happens to everybody who's not acclimated to the world, maybe to the strange specifically. And so he stops her and basically asks her to pay for it. And so we're like, oh sure, I'll pay for it. And we pull out all of our money, which is 2. I'll buy it. And at that point, he's like, get out of here. You don't have any money. And I think once we get some distance, the spell is broken. We realize, why did I want that sword in the first place? But we're still searching in the strange. We still need to find weird water. We've got 2 more chances. Queen, there we go. That counts as a 10. So I'm going to say we got it. We got the glowing water native to the strange that, if prepared properly, can fulfill any requirements. Still need to do our event though. 1 more strange event on Queen. Says the great demon Leader of all those that live in the strange summons you to their throne room. They offer you a home here in the city for 1,000 silver. No catch. If you haven't bought the house, every time you enter the strange, you may undertake a task to reduce the cost by 50 silver. What is the task? Do you do it? How does it go? Okay, so obviously I don't have 1,000 silver. Now, every time I come into the strange, is that once? Yeah, that must be once per week, basically. So basically, this is my third day, or this is my third timer time in the strange. But I think it would count as one entry. Every time I come into the strange, I can perform a task to reduce the cost by 50 silver. So I think the reason that he's calling us in the first place is the same as Mayat Darkeye, which is basically just that they recognize us as the replacement for the previous witch, who presumably was pretty well known around these magical parts. So they're interested in her replacement, even though we have no idea what's going on. All right, so we got to learn about this demon a little bit. Ooh, let's roll for his height. D8, 6 is tall. All right, so he's not very tall. He's just tall. I mean, tall for a demon. Maybe he's like 9 feet. His attitude is polite. Oh, and again, I've made a gendered assumption about a demon. This actually uses they pronoun for the demon. So I'm going to roll a gender, same as before. 6 is a lady demon. Clothing is decorative. Notable feature is a large scar. I don't know why this is the first thing that popped into my head, but for a demon, I'm just going to say her large scar is just all the way straight down her entire body. At least the parts that you can see. I don't think she's dressed like sexily necessarily, but just because I want this scar to be visible, maybe she does have her midriff showing, so you can see it all the way down her face, down to about here, and then down in their stomach area. The rest is decorated. Because I want an inspiration for how she's dressed, I'm gonna roll on nightmares. Oh, it's actually dreams and nightmares together as a D100. So the nightmares half is 50 to 100, 51 to 100. So I'll use a D6 and a D10. 26 plus 50 is 76. You dream that someone you love is walking away from you. They don't turn when you call their name, and you know they will never come back. You awaken feeling sad and worried. Well, that doesn't describe her look, but I kind of like the idea that anyone who talks to her, anytime you talk to her, you get that feeling. So this great demon, leader of all those that live in the strange, just gives off that feeling. Maybe it happens not like while you're talking necessarily, but after she leaves or when you leave, as soon as you like turn around or she turns around to leave. Or maybe she sets it up so that no one's allowed to walk away from her. Whenever she's done with a conversation, she leaves. And as soon as she turns around and starts walking away, you just feel this immense longing like, oh no, I can't let her leave. I hope she comes back. But she leaves because she wants to make you feel that. Because she's a demon. All right, we need to know her name, which is 77 Sen Li Ain. Just keep it, Sen Li Aina. Been recording so long, my face cam died. So we're gonna have to wrap this up. I was hoping to do like more than 2, because I only did 2 last time. I spent a bunch of time setting up the world and the character and stuff, but I'd like to be able to get through more than 1 week at a time here. Not this time. We're only going to do 1, and I still need to know, what is the task? I'm really glad I have these, because I don't think I'd be able to... I don't think I'd have fun playing without these. I like the tables telling me what's happening instead of me having to make up everything from scratch. I mean, I like that it told me half of the event, but then it says, what is the task? How do you do it? How does it go? Like, I don't know. What is the task? Don't make me figure it out. But I do have these. I came prepared. Random quests. Not sure if this is going to work, but there are D100 of them. 29 party member receives a letter, hastily written, claims the player's hometown is being threatened by bandits. That's not a quest. That's a prompt. I like the idea that it is something weird. I'm not sure this is going to help, but this is a notabilities and peculiarities table specifically for dungeons. I'm going to try to turn that into some kind of quest. 94 says magnetic. Certain walls and areas of this dungeon are strongly magnetic. All right, so I'm going to say that the quest is that he gives Selwyn, or she gives Selwyn, sorry. The great demon, Senliana, gives Selwyn some kind of arcane, weird-looking tool that is for measuring the magnetic forces within the strange. And so this task that is going to give us a 50 silver discount on buying a house is every time that we visit the strange, we need to take measurements for the Great Demon of wherever we go. Just anywhere we go within the Strange, just take some magnetic measurements. Or maybe the task is to take the measurements outside of the Strange in the real world and then deliver them. And that's the quest, is delivering the measurements that have to be taken out in the real world. The Great Demon wants to get the magnetic measurements of our plane. So that's what I'm gonna say. That was the quest. It says, what is it? Do you do it? How does it go? But it also says that something you can undertake every time you enter. So I think I'm just gonna say that's something we're gonna do going forward, not something we're resolving right now. We certainly take the tool. I guess that's kind of an interesting moral quandary, is are you willing to do work for a demon? Trying to learn about the realm that you live in. But because I got at least a 10, I got my weird water. Instead of counting down the timer, I'm just gonna say I'm done. I've completed it. Can be added raw for a tag. I'm gonna choose sleep because sleep is caused by dark water, which I can get free from Fizzy because that's Fizzy's familiar ability that we got in the previous episode. And then I have skeleton dust for hair, which can be crushed with my mortar and pestle, and old blood, which can be used for the curse, which can be boiled in my cauldron. So I've got a total of 4 ingredients: dark water, weird water, skeleton dust, and old blood. You know, last session I named my brew Dark Water Delight because of the very sweet taste of the dark water. And I think I'm just making that Selwyn's witch identity here. I mean, we've got Fizzy the Familiar who makes dark water, and as often as I can, I'm just gonna say that we use the dark water to add that sweetness, and she just calls everything Dark Water Delight. No one needs to know what else is in there because the overpowering sweetness and now fizziness makes it delightful. So we serve that to Manrique and assure her that come the next full moon, she will not be turning into a hamster. She probably doesn't have the money to pay us on her, but once she goes home, apologizes to her family, she'll have her wealth and position reinstated. Hopefully she'll probably have to pay off some of the local government in High Rennick to atone for her damages, but we'll end up getting paid the base price of 20 silver, minus 4 because we did put 1 poison in there, but then plus 12 because of the 3 sweet points from the dark water. It ends up being a plus 8, 28 silver, which puts us at a total of 30, and reputation goes up by 1. Takes 30 reputation to become intermediate, so that could be a while. Oh no, that's the amount of silver would get paid. Novice is 0 to 10, so 11 reputation would put us at intermediate. So we're at 6. We need to get up to 11. I think that concludes our week. So that's week 3 of Apothecaria. We figured more about Selwyn. We got the picture of her. We named Fizzy. Oh, I forgot we bought a hive. So I can actually get 4 more silver, adding a little extra sweetness thanks to the bees. I'll mark off 1 use in spring. Yeah, we've got our world map now. So there we go. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for subscribing, and bye.